Now we move on to another panel discussion on digitization and innovation, navigating the digital banking fintech partnership and embedded finance interplay, crafting an omnipresent digital strategy. Well, let's welcome our co-panelists here on stage. Mr. Aditya Harkauli, Head of Digital Banking, Unity SFB. Let's, let's clap hands and welcome him here on stage. Mr. Keshav Mishra, Chief Digital Officer, Shivallik SFB. Mr. Bigyan Adhikari, Manager, Digital Banking, Global IME Bank Limited. Ms. Sujatha Mohan, Senior Executive Vice President, HDFC Bank. And a moderator for this session, Mr. Amit Kapoor, founder, Onestack. Let's welcome everyone.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I think people will be trickling in if they've had their lunches. If they have not, then I think they'll run for it. But keeping in mind, we've given a heads up that we have 30 minutes, so we'll see what we can achieve in this 30 minutes, right? So largely the objective is that what is this whole partnerships about, right? And we have two SFBs right from a grassroots level. You've become an SFB, and I'm sure you aspire to become a big bank. I don't know what HDFC aspires, but we love to know what you want to aspire. And then we have an interesting perspective of Nepal banking, right? I was reading their data sets. It's very, very interesting. So would love to start with, and please we'll keep it fluid, right? Rather than being more specifics, right? Anyone, Aditya, or you want to go for? In the SFBs, now that y'all are become a bank and y'all are looking at small finance banking, how much of it is actually y'all are looking at building it by yourself, or y'all are looking at partnerships, right? How do you look at partnerships? And largely, if both of you could share, what is it that one fintech partnership you did, or one fintech innovation you did, which you felt was worthy and it supported the ecosystem? And what is that one you are wanting to do, which will then complement your growth, right? Because I'm sure a lot of fintech sitting over here would love to know how they can work with you. So yeah.
Thanks. I think a short answer to your question is probably reflected in the title itself, right? I think it encapsulates almost everything that we'd like to do. So there is talk of fintech partnerships, there's embedded finance, omnipresent digital strategy. I think all of this needs to come together. But to answer your question, I think what is important as for any business is speed, scale, and security when you're trying to go down the digital path. And for us, I think we believe partnerships would be the way to sort of take things forward. We are the latest entrants in the banking domain. And there is a lot of catching up to do. Building is time consuming. While there are arguments on both sides, I think a lot of good work has happened in the last many years that we can leverage now to accelerate our speed to market. And therefore, partnerships is a very natural option for banks like us.
Yeah. So, am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. So, build versus buy, right? I mean, the truth lies somewhere in between, right? You cannot have everything built by the bank, and you cannot have everything bought by the bank, right? So it's a fine, balance that as a bank, especially the small finance banks, where we have to make sure that what we are delivering to the customer, is it something adding value as a banking, as a core service? So I'll like to differentiate, right? So we basically say that, is this something that adds value from, offering the products and services to the customer, or is it something that is basically hygiene? Right? So for example, as a bank, if you want me to build an AML system, FRM system, fraud risk management system, right? Some of those things are core to what I do, but not necessarily something that I need to reinvent the wheel, because that has already been built by somebody which is being offered, tested by the market and industry. And that's not going to be a differentiator. I cannot say I have the best AML or EFRM system. That cannot be the differentiator for the end customer. Right? But wherein it comes to engagement layer, right? We talk about channels in which, let's say, mobile banking, right? Some of those things where we have nuanced and each bank will have their own segment. Like unlike HDFC Bank, which will be catering to every segment of the customer, as a small finance bank, we have a niche that we cater to, right? I mean, we basically have 75% priority sector lending, unlike the large commercial bank where it is 40%. So our segment is obviously slightly different. For us, MSME is our bread and butter. So we focus on that and we try to build solution that meets their requirement. To come to your second point, right? So we are one of the newest small finance bank. We used to be a cooperative bank. Shivallik Small Finance Bank will be completing 3 years soon. And in the last 3 years, we have kind of built the infrastructure around which we can build the front-end layer. So just to answer your questions on the one use case, for example, many of you will be using moneycontrol.com, right? So in moneycontrol.com, if you want to place a fixed deposit with Shivallik Small Finance Bank, you can just do that seamlessly sitting in this room, right? So we have embedded the entire journey inside the Money Control app, and there are other apps as well. So I'm just giving you one known example. And that has created a reach which we could not fathom otherwise, right? Because they have, let's say, 7 million customers who already have the app installed. And that is the model that we are quite excited about. There are many in the pipeline that I would not like to share here, but whatever is live is something that I'm sharing.
Yeah. Bigyan, I'll just come back to you in 1 minute. Aditya, Keshav, obviously you're managing small finance bank. You constantly look at what HDFC has done. Sujatha has done this in the previous life, right? She's worked with Ratnakar. She's kind of built it from the cooperative to the large and now. So Sujatha, interestingly, again, whom do you look up to? How do you strategize? What goes in that strategy room? Because we look up to you. Whom are you looking up to and how are you strategizing the next fintech partnership or the next innovation or the next inclusion? How do you think about it?
In the context of HDFC Bank, see, while partnership seems to be a conversation we keep taking back to small finance banks or smaller banks in the structure, partnerships is equally an important endeavor for HDFC Bank also, and I think for most large banks. Except the approach will tend to be a little different maybe. The way in which we kind of work with the partners tends to be a little different. But if you actually look at the technology architecture, so to say, we also struggle with the same set of things or succeed with the same set of things. Are my business use cases different from what Keshav said? No, not really. Maybe because of the way in which we have to do compliances. So I think the compliance bars are a little different in HDFC Bank. So because of the amount of time we spent on compliances or we spend on getting the data integration rules right and so on and so forth, it takes far longer. Who do we look up to? Frankly, we look up to, for agility and things like that, to fintechs and banks like them only, because we want to be as agile as them, as fast as them, but at the same time do it in the way we want to do today, right? Like, for instance, I used to do BAS, I used to do banking as a service and RBL. When we launched BAS or when we integrated BAS, the cap that we wore on the cybersecurity side was very different in terms of posture and everything that I see in HDFC Bank today, right? So how do you get that posture also embedded and be at speed with the banks is what we kind of dream of now, and that's what we are working.
So you are open for partnership, right? Because every fintech over here wants to work with HDFC, right?
There are partnerships that are there, and there is a unit that has actually got established now in the bank, which is actually called Banking as a Service.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So one of the speakers in one of the panels is actually the head of Banking as a Service. So
nice.
There is a unit.
Yeah. Cool. So we have SFBs, Bigyan, we have established, I don't know what it is. So now, coming back to you, right? Nepal. 5 lakh customers, if you ask any of the SFBs or anybody, 5 million customers, correct, sorry. 5 million customers, if you ask the SFBs or if you ask Sujatha, she'll be like, oh, that branch, right? But if you look at Nepal, means that's 30% of your bankable population. So how do you see the challenges in partnerships, in innovation? Whom do you look up to? And what do you look at to India perspective? So because there is a very porous border in terms of technology. So yeah.
Hi. I may sound a little biased. I will be talking more on the Nepal's perspective because I'm regulated by a different entity and I think I am bringing a different flavor to it. Yeah. So going back to Amit's point is, as he said, I'm one of the largest bank, actually the largest bank in Nepal, the commercial bank in Nepal, with a client base of around 5 million customers. the total population of Nepal is 29 million. So you can relate to the point that what Amit rightly said. Now, I think I stand between you people and HDFC Bank, and not in exactly in terms of sign, but the market share which I hold in Nepal. And what I would like to be is the hybrid model of these two banks. The agility that they carry and the scalability and the variety of business that HDFC carries. So that's what we look up to. Yeah.
So coming back to Aditya, Keshav, right? Y'all are a growing bank, right? So a lot of time when SFBs were formed, fintechs ran to you, y'all looked at technology. People came from diverse backgrounds before y'all were a cooperative bank. Now senior veteran bankers have come. So would love to understand from you that when y'all came together, how much of your energy today is spent in back end vis-a-vis front end? So that is the first one. And secondly is, how much of it did you actually think that you want to do retail or digital banking, right? Because these are very, very too complex, right? And back-end, front-end is there in core banking as well as branch banking, as well as in digital banking in back-end and front-end as well. So we'd love to hear those two perspectives, because all of you all came from very diversified banking background. Each one has its own flavor. Each one came with his or her biases. So how did that conversations go about?
Yeah, I mean, Shivallik, before even becoming a small finance bank, and we were the first cooperative to get a banking license, right? Obviously, there's a lot of expectation both from all the stakeholders actually, and everybody is watching. Fortunately for us, the bank had a vision already in place. So things like core banking, which is the system of record, was already Finacle. So your bank has already invested in base level of infrastructure. I think the challenge was not around digital versus back-end or front-end. It was about the culture of the bank, right?
Yep.
So it is the people that need to have that conviction that with the changing environment, with the new regulations, with the new license in place, we were very fortunate that the team scaled up to the new expectations significantly. In fact, the entire team of the old cooperative bank still more or less remains at the head office level, and there is a continuity. I think that's one big challenge that anybody who wants to convert to a small finance bank need to keep in mind, because there is a legacy system. There's a legacy set of customers that need to be taken care of. As far as the split between digital and backend, the way we see is that backend per se remains a common architecture around which both digital and physical branches need to build. Because end of the day, customer looks for an omni-channel experience, right? No matter whether it has come from the digital banking side or it has come from the partnership side or from our branches. The backend we invested and we continue to put a lot of emphasis. One is that upkeep of the existing system, but more or less for all of us, one big challenge is the changing regulatory dynamics, right? Every now and then there are new guidelines that keep coming and we all have to comply for it. So there's a dedicated team who manages the day-to-day operation and the back-end part of it. And then there are dedicated people who look for fintech partnerships, look for building new digital channels. So there are dedicated people, and that team works in synergy, right? So it is not, I will not say it's a siloed approach, but it is a focused approach in which if there is a convergence or synergy, we pick people from both sides and create a project. But for us, we have adapted to the agile way of working quite nicely, and it has helped us. Very focused sprints that we do, and keeping customers and the regulations and balancing the two, right? That's where the key challenge is. I mean, so the truth lies somewhere in between, right? So basically, both needs to be kind of taken care of. But for us, especially the distribution network, right? I mean, we will be significantly lower compared to the larger banks, even the small finance bank category. But we don't intend to build thousands of branches pan-India, right? Because we feel that there are a lot of things that can be done digitally, and there are some things for which the branches are still required. So we have taken a clustered approach. We have now started 6-7 new states this financial year, and we intend to ride on some of those distribution reach as well. Because that also gives confidence to the customer, saying that, if there is a exigency for which I need to go to a branch, where do I look for? Yeah. Is it like 1,000 kilometers away from where I live? Okay. Or is it somewhere, let's say 100 kilometers radius, where I can reach out for an extreme event where I still need to walk into the branch? So, yeah.
Maybe you could add some light in terms of, while you guys might be forward thinking, you guys might be thinking innovative, but your customers were still used to a cooperative mindset and they were still there, and now suddenly they also had to catch up. So any anecdotes, any interesting insights?
Um, I think we have a fairly varied bunch of customers, different personas already that we find in the bank. But and there is, in every story there is a context,
Yep.
including Unity, where both Centrum and BharatPay had existing sort of businesses that have been brought in into the bank. It isn't a greenfield project, so I think some of the priorities are driven by what already exists, and then how do we change some of what we have and add the missing bits in our enterprise architecture. Where do we spend our time? I think right now we are sort of looking at the full value chain. We are at that stage. But as we move forward, I think what becomes important, as in any case, is to define our P0s very, very sharply, right? We have some engines in the bank that are working well. The lending businesses are up and running and firing fairly well.
Yep.
We need to sort of focus on customer acquisition. We know branches can be an expensive proposition. So the idea is to look at building out a robust digital stack that allows us to do multiple things, but then in terms of products and services, look for complementarity and supplement what the bank is already doing. I don't think we can be everything to everybody from the very start.
True.
Liabilities is a big focus area. Acquiring customers will be a key focus area for the many years to come. And I think some of our efforts in creating the digital stack will go towards addressing that part of the bank, essentially liabilities, customer acquisition, creating the right suite of products that brings the customer in, and then diversify into more value-added sort of propositions.
Yeah.
I'll just take 30-second, right? So one interesting insight is that a lot of our customers, right, prior to conversion to small finance bank, were used to dealing in the vernacular language, right? So we have taken special effort to ensure that whatever we build is also available in the language that they speak. And that has really helped us in terms of, reaching out to the customers, talking to the language that they are used to communicating with the bank. And we have ensured that most of the transaction, even in the mobile app today, everything is available in Hindi, which is where we operate. And we are building vernacular capability in every places that we can think of. So I think one interesting insight is that when you engage with the customer, you understand that each segment has a specific need.
Yeah, communication is the key. And keeping it real to them and rural to them, because it doesn't happen, because a lot of time people do not enter bank branches, consumers, especially in the cooperative segment, because it was AC, he felt inhibited that if I speak in Hindi, my answers may not be there and all. So yeah. Sujatha, coming to you, coming back again. So much of innovation is happening, so much of inclusion is happening, so much of information is flowing, and when information flows, data also flows, correct? With DPDP right around the corner, with technology being all around, and you've been sitting on the data for the longest time, right? Multiple hats you've worn. What gives you nightmares in terms of when it looks at cybersecurity, with data and everything? What keeps you awake at night, or you have a peaceful sleep? And how are you, and how is HDFC at that scale able to manage it, navigate this, and go through it?
Yeah, I mean, I will take this question as a cybersecurity question more so. Because while, see, data has its own set of issues, and right now we are dealing with data privacy, so to say. But I think cybersecurity as an issue is a very large challenge for the banking industry at large, right? With a faster money movement. You look at UPI, money moves at speed. With NEFT, RTGS coming into play, money moves at a very, very fast pace. So when I would say every bank is currently dealing with very similar kind of cybersecurity problems. I see. In reality, if you don't necessarily, the way banking has evolved, I don't think there is much different from what I do versus what Keshav does or any other bank does. It's just all of us are doing the same thing at different levels of scales with different customer segments, with different kinds of products and product mixes, but predominantly pretty much playing in the same space, right? to an extent, banking getting a little bit commoditized also in that sense. So if you look at it that way, I think from a cybersecurity point of view, we're very focused in terms of 3 pillars, okay? So we look at identity and authentication as a very, very important pillar of what we are trying to do. And when we, the second area that we look at is transaction monitoring and processing, and third is largely the infrastructure cover that you give. If you get all these 3 layers covered properly, I think people need not have sleepless nights. People can sleep well. From an identity and authentication perspective, we used to, a few years back, we used to say what you know versus what you have. What you should have. Right? Yep. Today, I think more layers have got added. You have what you know, what you have, what you are as an individual, where are you placed, okay, and where and what do you own as a device. The combination of these 5 things is deriving how you do identity and authenticate and allow entry into any one of the apps. You pretty much need to cover all of this. Yep. And when you say user ID, passwords, tokenization, all of that is one part of it, but a reasonable amount of effort in understanding and doing behavioral biometrics to make sure that you know where the customer is, who he is as an individual, so that when you need to have the trust that the person who is entering inside the bank is indeed the person who is supposed to enter the bank, right? Mm-hmm. So you put layers of behavioral biometrics, you put authentication models which are about what kind of device? Have you done device binding? Have you ensured SIM binding? To an extent, with some of the circulars that the regulators have issued, this has even become binding on the bank to make sure that all these 5 areas are covered. So this kind of makes sure that you get the identity and the authentication sorted out. And then when you see an anomaly, you have multiple ways in which you kind of make sure the customer is the same person, right? So you see an anomaly, the moment an anomaly detection happens, and I think data is used best in such areas, right? True. So when you see an anomaly detection, then you decide what kind of step up you want to do. Do you want to have a token mechanism? Do you have an in-app verification process? Do you do a call center? And depending on the kind of customer, you need to kind of get adjusted, right? Yeah. Like for instance, a customer who may not be very comfortable with doing authentication with tokens, etc., you have to find a different way to do it, right? And technology is kind of quite daunting right now. I mean, the kind of things that are happening is quite, and at speed, right? The changes are happening at speed. So this is one big area of focus for the bank. The second big area for the bank is transaction monitoring. With the velocity of money movement happening at pace, the speed at which fraudsters are able to navigate and construct frauds, okay? They are not simple frauds. It's not like kisi ko phone kiya. It's not like Jamtara anymore, right? People can actually do complicated modus operandis. So for you to do transaction monitoring and having a complete control on, and that's another very important piece of work that we do to ensure that our customers' money is protected and people feel safe with us. And the last piece is this entire layer of infrastructural, cover, which is about saying all the 7 layers. A transaction goes through your network, it goes through a transportation layer, it goes through a routing layer. All the 7 layers need different kinds of cover. Yeah. So we do that in all areas. We do it for retail customers. We do it for corporate customers. We try to work with we had a specific question on the fintech partnerships. And that is where I think there will be a large amount of focus that most banks will have to put, right? Yep. Because today the security posturing that people have in different companies is very different. But I was just reading about a particular case that happened in Hong Kong, that deep fake money laws where a guy got into a call with some 7 people and all of them seriously looked like the officials, and he kind of remitted money to 12 accounts. Yeah? I mean, if that is the posturing, I think each one of us will need to now start working on those kind of aspects as well. And I think a common security posturing is required, because some of those things are the ones that will impede partnerships. Yep, true. So if you want to take any leeway in those areas is when you will have a partnership breakup. But otherwise, I think this is one thing everybody needs to invest in to ensure that And we also know what is RBI's posture on this, right? Even if a customer compromises, the bank is accountable for taking care of him.
Yeah.
So we all have to be that much more careful about these things.
Yeah. Actually, leading from there, right? Bigyan, I'm sure you would have read, heard, seen. RBI is super active. They have very clear do's, very clear don'ts, and everything. Every banker follows the dots and the I's as much as possible. Share a little about what is the Nepal regulatory framework like? What are the various opportunities? What are you guys seeing in the journey of the financial ecosystem? Because once again, we know that a lot of our instruments are now easily accepted over there, right? So we know a lot of our applications you can just seamlessly do the transactions over there. So how is the regulator reacting over there? What are the challenges and opportunities you are seeing for the larger audience over here?
Again, I'm being very biased, and the question is also on the same side. So I find my regulator, we call them Nepal Rashtra Bank. I think they are one of the most proactive. I think they every time they take a leaf out of RBI's book, and although we are at gap, but
trust me, it's a good book.
Yeah, it's a good book. It's a good book, and they are very much lenient on promoting the digital financial transactions. You can judge by the license they have provided to the 10 PSOs and 27 PSPs. There are already 115 VFIs in Nepal, being a small country. There is a fourth strategic plan of the central bank that spans from 2022 to 2026, and this envisions a complete digital financial ecosystem for Nepal. I think that speaks volume of what they have been doing. I will again go back to, I'm not a number guy, so I'll refer to some few numbers, and I think you can connect to the points that what actually the regulator has been doing and what the banks in Nepal have been trying to help it. So as I said, the population is 29 million, and the surprising number is the internet penetration is at 140%. And amongst that, the internet through the mobile broadband stands at 96%. These are, I think, very, very interesting number from the audience side, also from the perspective of Fintech collaboration.
Be honest. How many are India SIMs over there?
I think the roaming charges are on the higher side, so I doubt. And it's very easy to get a SIM at Nepal. You land at Kathmandu airport, so a passport, and you will easily get a SIM card over there. And another data interesting is I talked about the mobile broadband, and the smartphone penetration stands at 73%. So that's huge again. And the population with a bank account, if we talk about the financial inclusion, it stands at 67%. So now coming back to the regulator's perspective on how they are nurturing the financial ecosystem of Nepal to promote a complete digital financial solution. As I said, the strategic plan identifies crucial milestones spanning from 2022 to 2026. The retail payment switch is already in place. The national payment switch will commence very shortly. Apart from that, there are guidelines for digital lending, which are already in place, and Fintech can provide to certain sum of amount. Although NBFCs are not like a regulated body over there, the central bank does not recognize, but it promotes an entire conducive digital financial ecosystem over there. Even the government of Nepal is involved in development of, you can say, digital public infrastructure. I think India is scaled with the ZAM Trinity. I think that what we have read, the Jandan account, the Aadhaar, and then the mobile. And coming to the mobile point, I think India ranks at within the top 5 rank for the cost of 1 GB data. I think it stands at around 7 cents. Nepal is not too far. Out of 237 countries, I think we are ranked at 37, and the cost of data is around 43 cents. So these all you can say the ecosystem of these everything has helped out to leapfrog the digital transactions on the payment side in Nepal post-COVID. I think right now the number of retail payment stands at 70%. Talking about my bank, as I said, it's the largest in Nepal, and the digital transaction stands at 80%. So it's 80-20 ratio. So a lot of things are happening. We are getting a lot of support from the regulator. As Vasudevan sir said this morning, interoperability is the biggest challenge right now for Nepal. The government is working on the national ID, which is similar to the Aadhaar over here, the biometric thing. All these things, when they come into place and are interoperable, I think we can scale up very fast.
So you're not only reading the RBI book, you're reading a lot of our books.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So I know we're running short of time, and I'm sure Aditya, Keshav, you would have to look at a lot of partnerships. So just one quick lines in terms of, because I come from Fintech, I constantly look for business. I'm sure a lot of people sitting over here are looking for business. What is that one partnership or one innovation which you're looking at? So we'll quickly sum it up and then we can run.
Well, it's across domains. So we are happy to sort of look at material opportunities, whether it is in the payments domain, lending, wealth, insurance. So happy to sort of have as many conversations as there are folks in the room.
Nice.
We evaluate every opportunity on its merit.
Nice.
Just on a previous point, I think Sujatha talked about a lot on identity and security. I think it's a given. Like in financial terms, we talk about risk-adjusted returns. I think if the objective of digital services or the digital formats is to deliver convenience and ease, it has to be on a security-adjusted basis, right? That has to be the underlying operating principle. And I think to this extent, it's important to make a note of the fact that the regulatory thresholds themselves are fairly robust, and it's important that it's the regulator itself that's nudging most of us in the right direction as far as identity, access, fraud, transaction monitoring pieces are concerned. With the explosion of channels, as I said, it can be, you want to rest secured, rest peacefully, that all boxes are checked as far as digital services are concerned.
Nice. From your side?
Yeah, so for us, partnership, I think one of the fundamental point that we emphasize is that two things actually. One is that understanding of the risk and compliance, right? That is something that is given, that the end partner also understands what kind of risk that is permissible, what kind of regulation that they need to comply to. And secondly is focus towards sustainability. And when I say sustainability, one important component of that, is it making money for us and for the partner also?
Yeah.
We are wary of the partnership where, the proposal comes that, we will see how it happens in future, but right now I want to acquire 1 million customer. That's not the model that at least we would like to work with. We look for a clear case of unit level economics, understand that what are the nuances and risks that goes into doing that business. And for us, embedded finance is an extremely important component. Work with like-minded partners who have focus, who have ability to scale, and who want to build businesses on top of their existing business is something that is an extremely preferred mode for me. So if there is a partner who already has a lot of customer using them for certain application, and if that partner comes to me and says that I want to offer one more product, those are the kind of partnership that at this point in time we are very excited about, because we also understand that cost of acquiring a new customer is very high. The CAC that we talk, right, it's not going to be very cheap to acquire a new customer, right? So if you already have a customer base who is doing something else, if you can sell one more product, so that's one very interesting point. Sure. Secondly, this whole thing around saying that if you are taking a ride from an Uber or an Ola and they allow you to make the payment, so there's a payment that is embedded inside the application, but in true sense, that's the need of their business, right? Because for them to facilitate ride solution, they need to build payment into it. Correct. But if they build, let's say, ride now and pay later, it goes into the lending domain. If they build that, okay, now you can also place a fixed deposit or buy an insurance, right? That's another domain. So each of the use cases will have to be sachetized based on the need of the customer, figure out a way that how we can do it in a compliant manner and profitable manner. These are the 2-3 points that is extremely crucial for us to define with whom we want to work with. We are a small bank. We don't want to work with hundreds of partners, but we want to work with like-minded partner in the space that we operate, with compliance and profitability as the key pillars of what we want to engage with.
Sujatha, just ending with you, forget agreement, most fintech will be happy just signing an NDA with you. So anyway, so coming back to that, what opportunities do you think fintech partners have?
See, on the fintech partnership side, I mean, while it looks like HDFC Bank is not really working with a lot of partners, there are a lot of partners we work with.
I am. It's just that everybody looks up to you, right?
Yeah.
And more would just want to work with you.
Right. But yes, as Keshav said, the threshold levels on what makes sense for HDFC Bank could be a little different. That business model expectation could be a little different. But on the payment side, we have a lot of partners. There are many partners with whom we have taken a more tech enablement based approach, where we are saying that you build software for us, and we are not one of those banks which says that unless you are a very large player, we don't work with you. The bank knows how to scale with small to large. In fact, in my erstwhile role, we were one of the FlexCube was one of the beneficiaries of growing with HDFC Bank, right? So that's another area we work with. Just as I said, it's not as if we have any limitations. We work with Perfios, we work with a lot of people. It's just that it has to fit to the business model. Our compliance and cybersecurity postures have to be good, and the terms and the business models have to be matched. Yep. Otherwise, we do work with partners actually.
So yeah, while we're running out of time, I know Bigyan wants to just share something anecdote on Nepal. So Nepal, all yours, and then I think we'll just call it, because keeping in mind, yeah.
Yeah, seeing Sanat sir in the audience, I think I have some special, something like announcement to make that. Post-COVID, as I said, we had, this is from my bank's perspective, we thought about a long-term strategic and sustainable plan. So we are on Finacle, so we chose to upgrade into the version 10, which has a lot of, agility and leveraging capacity. And what we did with that is that we collaborated with the local fintech over there. The customer onboarding time was around 30 minutes. Now we have cut that to 8 minutes. Nice. And we open around 1,500 accounts per day. So you can do the maths over there. So collaboration has been a very key, part for us. The numbers, as I said, have been there. So I take this opportunity as being a part of Bharat Fintech Summit. I request all the fintechs collaborators over here to let us meet, let us discuss, and I welcome you all to Nepal, and let's see what we can do in future.
Yeah.
For the
I think we'll just end it at that. We would have loved to have some Q&A, but we really have a call out. But I'm sure Keshav, Aditya, Bigyan has already given a call out. I'm sure Sujatha herself, if you all want to reach out, they're available so they can find more partnership opportunities. Cool? Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for your time, and thank you to Bharat Fintech Summit for calling us. It's
Thank
always
you
a pleasure.
so much,
Thank you.
everyone, for this insightful session. Thank you. One group picture, a quick one. Let's have one. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.